The council room floated in the darkness between stars. Inside, creatures from 1,000 different worlds gathered around a massive table that glowed with soft blue light. Some had scales, others had fur, and some were made of pure energy. They all served the Galactic Dominion, the empire that ruled half the known universe. High Magistrate Volreth stood at the head of the table. His body was made of purple crystal that pulsed with light when he spoke. He had lived for 300 years and conquered 70 star systems. Today he was angry. Earth has refused us again, Volreth said. His voice sounded like breaking glass. 5 times we have asked them to join the Dominion. 5 times they have said no. The other council members shifted in their seats. A small planet saying no to the Dominion was rare. A small planet saying no 5 times was insulting. Perhaps we should destroy them, suggested one council member. She had 6 arms and skin like red metal. No, Volreth said. We do not destroy what can be useful. Earth has resources we need, but they must learn respect. He touched the table and a hologram appeared. It showed 5 figures. We will send the Executioner Corps. They will kill Earth's leaders. Then the planet will surrender. The room went quiet. Everyone knew about the Executioners. They were the best killers in the galaxy. They had ended rebellions on 100 worlds. No target had ever escaped them. They will arrive in 10 days, Volreth continued. If Earth's government falls, we accept their surrender. If not, we turn their cities to ash, the council voted. It was unanimous. Far away on Earth, in a hidden room beneath the city of Sol, President Quandejo watched the alien transmission on a large screen. Around him sat his cabinet, the leaders of Earth's unified government. They had been waiting for the Dominion's response. Now they had it. The hologram showed the 5 executioners. Each one had killed more people than some Earth wars. The translator AI spoke their names and their methods. When it finished, the room was silent. Minister of Defense Park Suho spoke first. Our weapons are useless against them. Our ships can't leave orbit. We have 10 days before they arrive. Can we evacuate the leadership? Asked another minister. No, Park Suho said. These killers can track anyone. Hiding won't work. President Quan rubbed his tired eyes. He was 60 years old and had led Earth through 5 years of first contact with the aliens. He had hoped for peace. Now he faced war. We need another option, he said quietly. Park Suho looked uncomfortable. He opened a folder on the table. There is one possibility. It's unusual. Tell me, the president said. We don't fight their way. We fight our way. Park Suho pulled up a file on the screen. It showed a woman's face. She looked about 30 with dark eyes and short black hair. Her name is Han Jiwoo, former Special Forces. Expert in historical combat methods. Historical? Someone asked. Ancient techniques, Park Suho explained. Stealth, infiltration. Methods from before we had satellites and drones. She's the last master of an old Korean warrior tradition. Her family has practiced it for centuries. 1 woman against 5 alien superkillers, another minister said. That's insane. Maybe, Park Suho agreed. But these aliens have never fought someone like her. They use technology and power. She uses silence and patience. They hunt with scanners and weapons. She hunts with her mind. President Quan studied the woman's file. 3 years ago, Jiwoo had completed a mission that remained classified. After that, she had disappeared into the mountains. Where is she now? Jirisan, the Mountain Temple District. She lives alone. Will she help us? Park Suho shook his head. Unknown. She wanted nothing to do with military service after her last mission. But this is different. This is survival. Send someone to find her, the president ordered. Someone she might listen to. 2 days later, Lieutenant Kim Mirai climbed the narrow mountain path toward a small wooden house. She was 26 years old and had been chosen for this mission because her grandfather had known Jiwoo's grandfather. Both had been warriors in the old tradition. The house sat among tall pine trees. Smoke rose from a chimney. Mirai knocked on the door and waited. The woman who opened it looked exactly like her file photo. She wore simple gray clothes and had calluses on her hands. Her eyes showed no surprise at having a visitor. Han Jiwoo? Mirai asked. Yes. I'm Lieutenant Kim Mirai. I need to speak with you about— No, Jiwoo said and started to close the door. They're going to kill everyone, Mirai said quickly. The aliens. They're sending assassins. Please, just look at this. She held out a data tablet. Jiwoo paused. Then she took the tablet. The video showed 5 different planets. On each one, the executioners had struck. Leaders vanished from locked rooms. Governments collapsed overnight. Whole families died in their sleep with no marks on their bodies. The footage was terrifying because it showed nothing, just the aftermath. Bodies that had been alive one moment and dead the next. Jiwoo watched all of it without expression. When it finished, she handed the tablet back. This isn't a military problem. This is an extinction problem. Yes, Mirai said. That's why I'm here. Our weapons can't stop them. Our technology is too far behind. But you fight differently. I'm retired. The whole planet might die. Jiwoo looked past Mirai at the mountains. She had come here to escape violence, to find peace. But peace meant nothing if everyone was dead. What exactly are you asking? Jiwoo said, stop them. The executioners. Give Earth a chance. 5 targets, 10 days. No support. We can provide intelligence, equipment, whatever you need. Jiwoo was quiet for a long time. Finally she said, I have conditions. I work alone. No oversight. No commands. And if I survive this, Earth leaves me alone forever. No medals, no parades. I disappear again and no one comes looking. Agreed, Mirai said immediately. Then I need 3 days to study the enemy. Show me everything you know about them. They worked in a secure room in Seoul. Jiwoo studied each executioner for hours. She watched their previous assassinations frame by frame. She read reports from survivors. She memorized their patterns. Kravik the Voidborn could phase between dimensions. He was invisible to most sensors. He killed up close, liked to see his victims' faces. Thasara was a telepath who could hear thoughts from kilometers away. She killed with her mind, causing brain hemorrhages without touching anyone. The architect was an artificial intelligence controlling thousands of tiny flying robots. It could infiltrate any building and strike from inside. Gormath was a giant warrior with armor that could withstand nuclear weapons. He simply walked through obstacles, including armies. Whisper was the most dangerous. It could perfectly copy any living being. It had killed kings while wearing their faces. They've never lost, Mirai said, watching Jiwoo work. Everyone loses eventually, Jiwoo replied. They just haven't met the right opponent. You think you can beat them? Jiwoo closed the files. They're very good at what they do. But they've only ever fought opponents who use technology and power. They've never fought absence. What do you mean? They hunt for heat signatures, for electromagnetic fields, for thoughts and movements. They look for something to find. Jiwoo smiled slightly. I'm going to teach them how to fight nothing. On the 8th day, the executioner ship entered Earth's atmosphere. It was black and smooth, shaped like a blade. It landed in an abandoned industrial zone outside Seoul. The 5 executioners emerged. They had reviewed Earth's military capabilities. Primitive, their defensive systems. Laughable. This would be quick. Then they received a transmission. A human voice speaking their language. I am Earth's response to your threat. Come find me first. If you succeed, the leaders are unguarded. If you fail, go home, Kravik laughed. It sounded like tearing metal. One human challenges all of us? Accept the challenge, ordered Thasara. But I will kill this fool first. I want to teach these primitives about power. No, Kravik said. I hunt first. I will phase into her location and end this in seconds. The others agreed to let him try. It would be amusing to watch. Kravik activated his dimensional scanner and began tracking the transmission source. The hunt had begun. In the ruins 2 kilometers away, Jiwoo sat in perfect stillness. She had prepared for 5 days. Her body temperature matched the environment. Her breathing was so slow that sensors registered nothing. She had coated herself in mud and local materials. She wasn't hiding. She was becoming part of the landscape. Through a simple periscope, she watched the executioner ship. Soon they would come. And they would learn that Earth's greatest weapon wasn't technology. It was patience. Kravik moved through the ruins like smoke. His body flickered at the edges, not quite solid, not quite there. He had hunted for 60 years across 30 worlds. This would be easy. His scanner showed thermal patterns, electromagnetic signatures, air disturbances. Everything living gave off signals. Everything could be found. He just had to look carefully. The transmission had come from this sector. Abandoned buildings from Earth's resource wars covered the area. Good hiding spots, but useless against his technology. He searched for 3 hours, found nothing, not even traces. Impossible, he thought. The human had to be here somewhere. He moved deeper into the ruins, confident. Too confident. His foot touched a wire, not a laser tripwire or electronic sensor, just plain wire covered in mud, stretched between two pieces of rubble at ankle height. The explosion was chemical, old-fashioned, the kind Earth had used 100 years ago. His phase shifting kicked in automatically, saving his life. The blast passed through him harmlessly. But that wasn't the point. Speakers crackled to life around him, basic battery-powered speakers hidden in the rubble. The human's voice came from all of them at once. "Welcome to Earth. We don't fight fair." Kravik's pride burned. He had been embarrassed by a primitive trap. He roared and began tearing through the buildings, no longer careful. He would find this human and make her death slow. Jiwoo watched from 400 meters away through old binoculars. The trap had worked perfectly. Now Kravik was angry. Angry meant careless. She moved to her next position, leaving no trail. Every step was planned. Every movement had purpose. She became the landscape again and waited. Back at the Defense Ministry, technician Lee Taman monitored what he could. He had minimal contact with Jiwoo. She refused radio communication, too easy to track. Instead, she used dead drops and simple signals. A light in a window. A colored cloth on a fence. "Any updates?" Minister Park Suho asked. "She engaged Kravik 3 hours ago," Taman reported. "He's still hunting her." "Is she alive?" "I think so." The signals continue. Park Suho watched the screens showing satellite footage. Somewhere in those ruins, a woman was facing a monster that had killed dozens of planetary leaders. He hoped they had made the right choice. Kravik hunted for 17 more hours. His anger slowly turned to frustration. The human had vanished completely. His scanners found nothing. His dimensional sight revealed no hidden chambers. It was as if she had never existed. He stood in the center of a collapsed building, trying to think. Where would a primitive go? How did they hide without technology? The answer was right in front of him. He just couldn't see it. Jiwoo had been there the entire time. Not hiding in shadows, not underground. Standing among the debris, covered in materials from the ruins, breathing in rhythm with the wind. She had controlled her body temperature through meditation. She had been so still that even her outline blended with the broken concrete. She had stood there for 17 hours. Watching, waiting, becoming nothing. When Kravik turned his back, finally moving to search another sector, she moved. Silent, precise. She held a thin wire stretched between her hands. It was monomolecular. She had taken it from Dominion technology found at their landing site. The wire passed through Kravik's neck before his brain could send the signal to phase. His head separated from his body. Both parts flickered once, twice, then became solid and fell. Jiwoo stood over the corpse for exactly 3 seconds. Then she moved, already heading to the next position. She took nothing from the body, left no trace of her presence. First kill complete. On the executioner ship, alarms screamed. Kravik's life signs had stopped. The other 4 gathered around the display, stunned. "How?" Gormath growled. He was the giant, his voice like grinding rocks. Thesara, the telepath, closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. She could feel the thoughts of millions in the nearby city. But she couldn't find the killer. There's nothing. No aggressive thoughts. No battle meditation. It's as if no one killed him. "Impossible," the architect said. Its voice was flat and electronic. Reviewing his scan logs, he found nothing until the moment of death. No thermal signature. No electromagnetic field. No movement markers. Then how did she get close? Gormath demanded. Whisper spoke for the first time. Its voice could sound like anyone, but now it chose something neutral and cold. She didn't approach. She was already there. She made herself invisible without technology. Physical invisibility through stillness. "That's a myth," the architect said. "Kravik is dead," Whisper replied. "Myths don't kill executioners." Thesara opened her eyes. "I will hunt next. No one can hide their thoughts from me. When she plans to strike, I will feel her intention. She left the ship alone, confident. She had never failed to find a target. Jiwoo had moved to the city of Busan, 300 kilometers south. She had traveled by bus, sitting among regular people, looking like an ordinary citizen. She carried nothing suspicious, no weapons, no technology, just herself. She knew about the Sarah. The telepath could hear thoughts from vast distances. Blocking thoughts would create a void that could be detected. The Sarah would notice silence in a sea of mental noise. So Jiwoo did the opposite. She filled her mind with noise. Random memories, childhood songs, meaningless mantras. She cycled through them constantly, never stopping. One thought flowed into another, creating a stream of mental chaos. To Thasara's senses, Jiwoo was just another human in a city of millions. Noisy. Chaotic. Nothing special. Thasara walked through Busan's central market. Thousands of people surrounded her. She had taken a human appearance using stolen genetic samples. She looked like a local woman, middle-aged, ordinary. She was searching for killers' thoughts. The hard focus of someone planning violence. The calm of a trained warrior. Any mind that stood out as dangerous. She found merchants thinking about sales, children thinking about toys, elderly people thinking about dinner. The normal chaos of human minds. She didn't find what she was looking for. Jiwoo was 20 meters away, looking at fruit at a vendor's stand. Her mind cycled through a memory of her grandmother's garden, then a song from school, then the pattern of rain on leaves. Meaningless. Random. Calm. She picked up an apple, examined it, smiled at the vendor. Her other hand held a small dart. She had made it herself using plants native to Korea. The Dominion's medical databases had never encountered these compounds. They wouldn't recognize the poison. She moved through the crowd, just another shopper, her mind still cycling through peaceful thoughts. She passed Thesera, stumbled slightly, apologized in Korean. Her hand brushed the telepath's arm. The dart was smaller than a grain of rice. It entered through clothing. Thesera didn't notice. Jiwoo kept walking, bought her apple, left the market. Her mind still peaceful, still random. No satisfaction. No triumph. Just neutral thoughts flowing like water. Thesera continued hunting for another hour. Then the poison reached her bloodstream. It was fast-acting, painless. Her legs stopped working. She fell among the market stalls. People rushed to help her, called for medical assistance. They thought she was having a stroke. Her last thought was confusion. She had never sensed danger, never felt hostile intention. How could someone kill with a completely calm mind? She died surrounded by concerned humans, never knowing her killer had been the woman who apologized for bumping into her. Jiwoo took a train back to Seoul. She ate her apple and watched the countryside pass by. 2 down, 3 to go. On the ship, the remaining executioners received the news. The Sarah was dead, poisoned in a crowded market. No witnesses saw anything suspicious. "This is impossible," the architect said. Its processors ran thousands of calculations. "Our success rate is 99.8%. We've never lost 2 executioners to 1 target." Earth said they prepared 1 defender, Whisper observed. They weren't lying. This human is exceptional. Gormath slammed his fist on the console, the metal dented. "No more hunting alone. We work together now. And we go straight for the leaders. Let this ghost come to us." "Agreed," the architect said. "We will fortify around the Earth government building. Full defensive perimeter. If she wants to protect them, she must come through us." The 3 remaining executioners prepared their assault. They had weapons that could level buildings, armor that could withstand missiles, sensors that could detect a mouse from a kilometer away. What they didn't have was understanding. They still thought this was about technology and power. Jiwoo sat in a small apartment and meditated. She had studied the remaining 3. Each one was dangerous in different ways. Fighting them head-on was suicide. But she wasn't going to fight them head-on. She was going to make them fight themselves. Taemin received a message through the dead drop system. just a few words written on paper, delivered by a child who didn't know what it meant. Moving to final phase. Evacuate non-essential personnel from Sejong City. They're coming for you. He showed the message to Minister Park Soo-ho. She wants us to evacuate? The minister asked. Only non-essential staff, Taemin said. She needs the leadership visible. It's bait. We're bait? Yes. But she has a plan. Park Soo-ho looked at the message for a long time. Then he gave the evacuation order. They were trusting everything to a woman who fought like a ghost. The executioners launched their assault at dawn. Their ship flew over Sejong City and deployed the Architect's drones. The Architect's drones filled the sky above Sejong City like a metal storm. Each drone was the size of a small bird, but together they formed a swarm that could tear through concrete. They spread out in perfect patterns, covering every street, every building, every possible approach. The Architect analyzed the situation from its central processing core on the ship. It had mapped the entire city, calculated every angle of attack, positioned drones at optimal intervals. Nothing could move without being detected and destroyed. The Earth Government Building stood in the center of the city. Inside, President Kwon and his cabinet waited. They could see the drones through the windows. Thousands of them hovering, waiting. "Where is she?" one minister whispered. "Unknown," Taemin replied. He stood by his communication equipment, but it was silent. No signals, no messages. Jiwoo had gone completely dark. Outside the perimeter, Gormath walked slowly toward the city. Each step made the ground shake. His armor was 5 inches thick, made from alloys that could withstand temperatures hotter than stars. He had fought armies before. One human, even a clever one, was nothing. Whisper moved through the streets wearing the face of a local police officer. It had copied the DNA perfectly from a sample taken 3 days ago. The real officer was unconscious in a basement, alive but imprisoned. Whisper needed the body intact in case it had to return to that form. The 3 executioners were coordinated through quantum communication, instant, unhackable. They could share information faster than human thought. No movement detected, the Architect reported. All approaches monitored. The ghost cannot reach the target. She will try, Whisper said. She has no choice. This is what she came to prevent. Then we will kill her when she appears, Gormath said. I want to see this famous human warrior. What none of them knew was that Jiwoo had already been inside their perimeter for 72 hours. She hadn't come after they set up their defenses. She had been there first, becoming part of the environment, waiting in a place they would never think to look. She was in the city's old storm drainage system, not hiding in it, living in it. She had prepared supplies, knew every tunnel, had marked routes that avoided sensor points. The system was old, built before satellites and drones. It was designed only for water, but Jiwoo wasn't water. She was something more patient. The Architect's drones were its strength. Thousands of units working as one mind, sharing data, responding to threats instantly. But Jiwoo understood something about systems. The more complex they became, the more they relied on patterns. For 3 days, she had been feeding the system false information. She had placed dozens of small heat sources throughout the city, modified civilian phones that emitted specific electromagnetic signatures. She had timed them to activate in random patterns that seemed natural, like people going about their daily lives. The Architect's processors had cataloged all of them as background noise. Not threats, just the normal operation of a city. Now Jiwoo activated Phase 2. All the heat sources changed their patterns at once. They began pulsing in coordinated rhythms, creating false movement signatures that seemed to converge on the government building from multiple directions. The Architect's processors identified 63 potential threats approaching simultaneously. It calculated the optimal response and split its drone swarm to intercept all of them. For exactly 4 seconds, there was a gap in the coverage directly above the government building. A tiny window created by the redistribution of forces. 4 seconds was all Jiwoo needed. She emerged from a drainage grate in the government building's underground garage. She had timed her movement perfectly, practiced it 100 times in her mind. She was inside the building before the drones repositioned, but she didn't go to protect the cabinet. That's what the Architect expected. She went hunting. The Architect's central core was on the ship, but it needed a local relay point to coordinate the drones across the city. That relay was a device the size of a briefcase, hidden in a commandeered building 3 blocks from the government center. Jiwoo had located it 2 days ago. She had watched the executioners set it up, noted its position, and planned her approach. She moved through the city's underground tunnels toward that building. The architect couldn't see underground. Its drones were optimized for aerial surveillance. She reached the building's basement, climbed up through an old access shaft, emerged in a storage room. The relay device sat on a table, surrounded by basic security sensors. The architect wasn't worried about physical attack. Its defenses were layered. Multiple redundancies. If someone approached the relay, drones would respond in milliseconds. Jiwoo didn't approach it conventionally. She had brought something with her. Small mechanical devices made from modified civilian electronics, watches, phones, tablets. Each one had been programmed with a simple instruction: emit an electromagnetic pulse at a specific frequency. Not one big pulse that the Dominion's shielding could deflect, hundreds of tiny pulses from different directions, timed to create interference patterns. The technology was crude, based on principles from Earth's early electronic warfare. She placed the devices around the room, set the timer, left the same way she came. The pulses activated simultaneously. They created a cascade of electromagnetic noise that the relay couldn't filter. It was like shouting at someone from every direction at once. The relay's processors couldn't distinguish signal from noise. It crashed. In the sky, thousands of drones suddenly lost coordination. They didn't fall. They were still functional, but they stopped working as a single mind. Each drone began operating independently, following basic protocols, no longer sharing real-time data. The swarm broke apart. The architect detected the problem immediately. Relay compromised, attempting to restore connection. But Jiwoo had destroyed the relay completely after the pulse. There was nothing to restore. Impossible, the architect said. Those were consumer electronics. Primitive technology. They shouldn't have been able to breach Dominion shielding. She didn't breach the shielding, Whisper realized. She went around it. Created interference instead of power. Clever. The architect began recalculating. It could still operate the drones individually, but coordination was reduced by 70%. The human had turned its greatest strength into a weakness. Jiwoo was already moving to her next target. She had no intention of stopping. Momentum was a weapon. Confusion was an advantage. Gormath was approaching the government building when the drones lost coordination. He didn't care. He didn't need the drones. He was a force of nature wrapped in invincible armor. He had destroyed fortifications on a dozen worlds, walked through minefields, survived orbital bombardments. One human was nothing. Jiwoo watched him from a distance. She had studied his species. They came from a high-gravity world. Their bones were incredibly dense. Their armor was engineered to enhance their natural strength. She couldn't hurt him. No human weapon could penetrate his defenses, but she didn't need to hurt him. She needed to move him. Seoul had suffered massive flooding during the monsoon season 2 months ago. The Han River had overflowed. The government had placed emergency barriers, but some areas were still unstable. Jiwoo had spent a day placing charges at specific points along the riverbank. Not military explosives. The executioners would have detected those. Simple chemicals mixed in the right proportions hidden in waterproof containers. She led Gormath toward the river. Not directly. She left traces. A footprint here. A dropped piece of cloth there. She made a trail that looked like someone fleeing in panic. Gormath followed. He could see the heat signature ahead. Could hear movement. The human was running. Good. He would catch her and end this. He reached the riverbank just as the monsoon rains began again. The water was already high. The current was violent. Jiwoo triggered the charges from a distance. They weren't meant to hurt Gormath. They were meant to collapse the weakened bank. Tons of earth and concrete fell into the river. The water surged, redirected by the collapse. A wave 10 feet high crashed over the bank. Gormath's armor was designed to withstand energy weapons and kinetic impacts. It had anti-gravity compensators to help him move despite his massive weight. But the compensators couldn't adjust fast enough to the sudden change in fluid dynamics. The water hit him with the force of a freight train. His weight, usually an advantage, became a liability. He was swept off his feet. The current took him, tumbling him like a stone. His armor protected him from impact damage as he struck rocks and debris, but it couldn't help him breathe. He tried to activate his emergency thrusters, but they were designed for space combat, not underwater propulsion. The river was too strong, too fast. Gormath fought for 3 minutes. Then his oxygen supply ran out. His armor became his coffin. He drowned in the Han River, invincible armor and all. Jiwoo watched from the opposite bank. She didn't feel satisfaction, didn't feel pride. She felt nothing. Emotion was weakness in battle, 3 down, 2 remaining. On the ship, alarm screamed again. The architect and Whisper received Gormath's final telemetry. Drowned, killed by water and gravity. Basic physics, this shouldn't be possible, the architect said. Its voice, always flat, now held something that might have been confusion. We are the elite. We have conquered species far more advanced than humans. How is one primitive warrior defeating us? The abandoned temple sat on the mountainside like a forgotten memory. Its wooden walls were gray with age. Prayer flags hung motionless in the still air. Inside, Jiwoo knelt in meditation, her breathing so slow it was almost invisible. She had been there for 3 days. No contact with anyone, no communication devices, no weapons except a single blade that had been in her family for 12 generations. She was waiting. Whisper searched the city below. It had copied the faces of 47 different people, interrogated sources, tracked rumors. The human had vanished completely. No digital footprint, no witnesses, nothing. For a creature that relied on infiltration and mimicry, this was frustrating. Whisper needed a target to copy, a location to infiltrate. But Jiwoo had removed herself from all systems. The architect remained on the ship, processing data. It had lost 3 partners and its drone coordination. It was recalculating constantly, trying to find patterns in Jiwoo's behavior. She's gone to ground, the architect told Whisper through their communication link. Probability suggests a location outside urban centers, somewhere she prepared in advance. That describes 10,000 possible locations, Whisper replied. Then we change tactics. We can't find her, so we make her come to us. We threaten what she's protecting. The Earth leadership? Yes, we resume the original mission. She will have to respond. Whisper considered this. She wants us to attack the leadership. She's prepared for that scenario. Then what do you suggest? I find her another way. Through people who knew her. Everyone has a past. Everyone has connections. Whisper began investigating Jiwoo's history. It found records from her military service. Found the names of her former squad members. Most were dead or scattered. But one name appeared multiple times in the reports. Lieutenant Cho Yuna, Jiwoo's closest friend and partner. Yuna had died 3 years ago on the classified mission that caused Jiwoo to retire. The official report said equipment failure. The body had been recovered and buried. Whisper went to the grave. Opened it, took samples from the bones. Its bioengineering allowed it to reconstruct DNA from minimal material. Within hours, Whisper wore Yuna's face perfectly. Not just the appearance. It had studied video footage, analyzed voice patterns, reviewed personal logs. It knew how Yuna walked, talked, gestured. It became her completely. Then Whisper began traveling to places that had meaning. Locations where Jiwoo and Yuna had trained together. Old safe houses. Mountain trails they had hiked. It left signs at each place. Small markers only Jiwoo would recognize. A coin placed at a specific angle. A rope tied in a particular knot. Symbols from their shared past. It was bait. But sophisticated bait. If Jiwoo checked these locations even remotely through intermediaries, she would see the signs. She would know someone who understood her past was looking for her. Someone who knew Yuna's methods. Jiwoo received news through her network of information drops. A street vendor who left newspapers at specific locations. A child who delivered messages without knowing their meaning. One message contained a photograph. It showed a mountain trail marker near a training facility where she and Yuna had spent 2 years learning advanced techniques. The marker had a coin balanced on top. The coin was positioned exactly as Yuna used to place them when marking safe routes. Jiwoo studied the photograph for an hour. Someone knew things only Yuna would know. Someone had access to those memories. It was obviously Whisper. It had to be. The shapeshifter was using her dead friend to draw her out, but knowing it was a trap didn't make it less effective. Jiwoo needed to end this. The deadline was approaching. She couldn't hide forever. She made a decision. She would go to the next location she knew Whisper would visit, the old training facility itself. Abandoned now, remote, perfect for a final confrontation. She prepared carefully, not with weapons or technology, with her mind. Whisper, wearing Yuna's face, approached the training facility at dawn. It moved exactly as Yuna would have. Cautious but confident. It checked angles of approach, looked for ambush positions. The facility was a collection of old buildings scattered through forest. Obstacle courses, firing ranges, buildings designed to teach close-quarters combat. "I know you're here," Whisper called out, using Yuna's voice perfectly. "I've been looking for you, Jiwoo. We need to talk." Silence answered. Whisper moved deeper into the facility. It had sensors that could detect body heat, air displacement, chemical signatures, but it found nothing. "Please," it continued. "I know this seems wrong. I know what you're thinking. But I'm really here. Something happened on that mission. I survived. I've been trying to find you for 3 years." The story was plausible. Whisper had researched thoroughly. It knew Jiwoo had never seen Yuna's body after the mission, had only been told she was dead. Doubt was a powerful weapon. "The mission went bad," Whisper said, moving through the buildings. "We were separated. You thought I died in the explosion, but I was captured. The aliens kept me alive, studied me. I escaped 6 months ago. I've been searching for you ever since." Still no response. Whisper entered the main building. Inside were training mats, old equipment, walls covered in faded photographs of past students. "I know about your parents," Whisper said. "How your mother taught you the old ways. How your father wanted you to have a normal life. I know about the scar on your shoulder from the training accident. I know you hate the taste of sweet things, but pretend to like them to be polite." These were true facts. Personal details from Yuna's logs and memories. "I know the last thing you said to me before the mission. You told me to be careful. You had a bad feeling. You were right." A voice came from the shadows. Jiwoo's voice. "Tell me what Yuna's grandmother made before every mission." Whisper paused, searched its database, found references to Yuna's family. Her grandmother had died when Yuna was young. But what did she make? Tea, Whisper guessed. It was logical. Many Korean families had tea traditions. "Wrong," Jiwoo said. She stepped into view from behind a pillar. Whisper smiled. "It was worth trying. You knew it was me all along." "Yes, then why did you come?" "Because you're the last one. And I'm tired of running." Whisper's form began to shift. It cycled through appearances rapidly. An old man, a child. Jiwoo's mother. Each transformation was perfect. "You can't kill me. You don't know which form is real. I could become you and walk away." "I don't need to know which form is real," Jiwoo said. She moved forward, blade drawn. "I just need to kill all of them." The fight was fast and brutal. Whisper changed forms constantly, trying to confuse her, make her hesitate. It became people she knew, people she loved. Each face was designed to create doubt, but Jiwoo had spent 3 years dealing with ghosts. She had mourned Yuna properly, accepted her death, made peace with her past. These were just masks, just illusions. She fought through each form without hesitation, cut through the psychological warfare with the same efficiency as her blade cut through flesh. Whisper realized its mistake. It had assumed Jiwoo's emotional connections were weaknesses, but she had already processed those emotions, already buried those people. The shapeshifter's greatest weapon was useless. Jiwoo's blade found its mark. The traditional steel, 12 generations old, pierced Whisper's primary organ. The creature stumbled, tried to shift form again, but the damage was too severe. It collapsed, settling into its true form, something that looked almost human but not quite. Gray skin, too many joints, eyes that were slightly wrong. "How?" it whispered. "You should have hesitated. Should have doubted. I spent 3 years learning to let go," Jiwoo said quietly. "You can't haunt someone who's already made peace with their ghosts." Whisper died. Its body stopped shifting, became still. Jiwoo cleaned her blade, 5 down, mission complete. On the ship, the architect detected Whisper's termination. It was alone now, the last executioner. All its partners were dead. It ran probability calculations. Its chances of completing the mission, 2.7%. Its chances of survival if it continued, 0.3%. For the first time in its existence, the architect experienced something it didn't have a name for. Humans would have called it fear. It made a decision based on pure logic. It sent a transmission to the Dominion Council. Mission failed. Target proves impossible to eliminate with current resources. Recommend immediate withdrawal and status reassessment of Earth's defensive capabilities. Then it left. The ship departed Earth's atmosphere, accelerating toward deep space. In Sejong City, President Kwan and his cabinet watched the alien ship disappear from their sensors. "It's leaving?" Minister Park Soo-ho said, disbelieving. "The deadline is still 4 days away," someone else added. "Why would they retreat?" Taemin checked his communication drops. Found a message left at a designated location. Just a few words written on paper. "Mission complete. Leaving now. Remember our agreement." President Kwan read the message. "She did it. One person stopped 5 of the galaxy's best killers. What do we do now?" Park Soo-ho asked. "We keep our word," the president said. "She wanted to be left alone, so we leave her alone. But first, we need to send a message to the Dominion. They need to understand what happened here." Far above Earth, the Dominion Council received the architect's report. They watched the video logs, saw how each executioner had fallen, studied the methods used. High Magistrate Volrath was silent for a long time after the presentation ended. "Analysis," he finally said. The news traveled across the galaxy faster than light. The story seemed impossible at first. 5 executioners, sent to conquer a primitive world, had been defeated by a single defender. The Dominion had retreated. On 1,000 worlds, rebels and resistance fighters heard the story. They didn't believe it at first. The executioners were legends, monsters that ended rebellions just by arriving. How could one human have stopped them all? But the evidence was undeniable. The Dominion Council itself had confirmed the reports. Earth, the small planet in Sector 7, had done what no other world had managed. They had said no to the Dominion and survived. In the council chambers, High Magistrate Volrath stood before the assembled representatives. The massive room was filled with whispers. Everyone wanted to know what Earth would face next. "Silence," Volrath commanded. His crystalline body pulsed with light. The room obeyed. "Earth has proven something we did not expect," he began. "They have capabilities we failed to recognize. Our traditional methods of assessment were inadequate." A representative from the military faction spoke up. "Then we should send a larger force. Orbital bombardment. Complete elimination of their defensive capabilities." "No," Volrath said firmly. "That would be wasteful. Earth's methods are valuable. They defeated our executioners using creativity and adaptation. These are qualities we should acquire, not destroy." "You want to make them allies?" another representative asked, shocked. "I want to make them consultants. We offer them provisional independence within the Dominion structure. In exchange, they provide military training and tactical consultation. We learn from them." The chamber erupted in argument. Some called it weakness. Others called it wisdom. The debate lasted for hours. Finally, they voted. The decision was narrow but clear. Earth would receive a new offer: partnership instead of conquest. On Earth, President Kwan Dae-ho received the transmission 3 days later. He read it carefully with his full cabinet present. "They're offering us independence," he said slowly, "in exchange for tactical consultation and training services." "It's a trap," someone suggested. "No," Minister Park Soo-ho said. "It's recognition. They respect strength. We proved we have strength. Now they want to understand it." Counselor Yoon Ha-jin, who had coordinated the defense efforts, raised a concern. "They'll want to study our methods. Send observers. Interview our warriors. If we accept, we'll be teaching them how to defeat people like Jiwoo." "That's exactly what she warned against," Taemin added. He had been Jiwoo's only contact during the mission. She said they would try to learn our methods and systematize them. Turn the Way of Shadow into another weapon in their arsenal. President Kwan looked at the offer again. "What choice do we have? If we refuse, they might send a real invasion force." "We need time," Park Soo-ho said. "Time to build our own fleet, develop our own technology. This partnership gives us that time." "But at what cost?" Yoon Ha-jin asked. "If we teach them everything, we lose our advantage." "Then we teach them carefully," the president decided. "We share some methods, but not all. We become valuable enough to protect but mysterious enough to keep them interested." The cabinet debated through the night. By morning, they had drafted their response. Earth would accept the partnership, but with strict conditions. Limited access. Controlled demonstrations. No direct observation of their most sensitive techniques. The Dominion agreed. A treaty was signed. Earth became the first world to join the Dominion through negotiation rather than conquest. The news spread across the planet. Celebrations erupted in major cities. Humanity had secured its place among the stars not through superior technology, but through courage and cleverness. But in the mountains of Jirisan, one person did not celebrate. Han Jiwoo sat outside her small house watching the sunset. She had heard about the treaty through her information network. She understood what it meant. Earth was safe, for now, but they had opened a door that would be difficult to close. The Dominion would send students and observers. They would study Earth's warriors, analyze their methods. Over time, they would learn. And when they learned enough, what then? She knew the answer. The Dominion would incorporate those methods into their own forces. They would create new executioners who fought like humans, patient, clever, unpredictable. Then Earth's advantage would disappear. But that was a problem for the future. For now, she had kept her promise. She had protected her world. She had earned her peace. A figure appeared on the mountain path. Lieutenant Kim Mirai, the young officer who had first recruited Jiwoo, climbed toward the house. She carried a package. "I know you don't want visitors," Mirai said when she reached the house, "but I had to come one more time." "To thank me?" Jiwoo asked without looking at her. "To ask you something." Mirai set the package down. "The Dominion wants to study our methods. The government will carefully limit what they share, but they need someone to design the training program. Someone who understands the old ways but can adapt them for teaching." "No," Jiwoo said immediately. "I expected that answer," Mirai replied. "But hear me out. If we don't control how this knowledge spreads, others will try. Poorly trained warriors will attempt to use these techniques without proper understanding. They'll fail and make us look weak. Let them fail. People will die, Jiwoo. Good people who are just trying to protect their families and their world. They deserve better than to be sent into battle with half-understood techniques." Jiwoo was silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "I made a deal with the government. They leave me alone, I know, and they will honor that. I'm not here officially. This is personal. I'm asking you to write it down. The methods. The philosophy. Everything you know. Create a training manual that can teach others properly. Then you can disappear again and your knowledge will live on. Knowledge that the Dominion will eventually acquire. Yes, but knowledge preserved in the right form, with the right warnings and limitations. If you don't write it, someone else will try. And they'll get it wrong." Mirai left the package and walked back down the mountain. Inside the package was paper, ink, and traditional writing tools. Jiwoo left the package untouched for 3 days. On the 4th day, she opened it. She spent the next 6 months writing. Not a military manual, not a tactical guide, but a philosophical treatise on the nature of combat, patience, and adaptation. She wrote about mindset more than technique, about principle more than practice. She wrote it in a way that could not be easily systematized or turned into a simple training program. She wrote it so that only someone who truly understood the philosophy could properly apply the techniques. When she finished, she had produced a text that was part history, part poetry, part meditation guide. It could be studied for years without ever being fully mastered. She sent it to Mirai with one instruction. "This is not a weapon. This is a way of thinking. Teach people to think, not just to fight." Mirai received the text and brought it to the government. President Kwan read parts of it and smiled. "This is perfect," he said. "The Dominion will study this for decades and still not fully understand it. It gives us exactly what we need, something to share that proves our value but doesn't fully reveal our secrets." The text was published in limited form. Copies were provided to Earth's military academies. Selected portions were shared with the Dominion as part of the treaty agreement. On other worlds, rebels and resistance fighters who heard Earth's story began requesting copies. The Dominion allowed it. They saw it as a way to pacify rebellious populations, let them study philosophy instead of building weapons. But something unexpected happened. The text inspired people. It showed them that victory wasn't about having better weapons or more soldiers. It was about thinking differently, about patience and adaptation, about turning your opponent's strength into weakness. Rebellions didn't end. They evolved. They became smarter, more patient. They learned to fight in ways the Dominion couldn't easily counter. On a distant world called Tervana, a rebellion had been failing for years. The Dominion controlled all major cities. The rebels were poorly armed and desperate. Then they received a copy of Jiwoo's text. Their leader, a woman named Kira, read it 3 times. She understood something important. They had been trying to fight the Dominion's way, meeting force with force, technology with technology. She changed their strategy. Instead of attacking military installations, they focused on making the occupation uncomfortable. They disrupted supply lines using simple methods, created false information that forced the Dominion to waste resources investigating nothing. They became ghosts that drained enemy morale without direct confrontation. Within a year, the Dominion withdrew from Tervana. It was too expensive to maintain an occupation against an enemy they could never catch. Similar stories emerged from other worlds. The Dominion found itself fighting opponents who had learned from Earth's example. Not the techniques themselves, but the mindset behind them. High Magistrate Volrath reviewed reports of these new rebellions with growing concern. Earth was supposed to help us. Instead, they've created a template for resistance. Should we take action against them? An advisor asked. No, Volrath said. They've fulfilled their treaty obligations. They shared their knowledge as promised. It's not their fault that we underestimated how that knowledge would spread. Then what do? We adapt, just as they taught us.